Cory Williamson. Good to see you, my friend. How is it going?
Another day in paradise, Nathan. Just, living my dream, my friend, living my dream.
Well, I love that. And we're going to talk about that today, and especially the new founded name Cory the Guide, which already means there's going to be some good stuff as you're on an exciting journey that you and I were talking about the last time we met in person. So before we get into all that, do you want to give the audience just a little quick background about who Cory is and what you're really up to today? And then we'll start to pull on some threads as we get in here.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation and kind of, picking up where we left off a few weeks ago when we met and got to start our connection and our journey together here. Just a small town boy from Greencastle, Indiana, and, got my little diploma, and packed up my car and decided to come to Colorado. So I wanted to be in a place where there were no bugs, no humidity. There were mountains and you can hike and bike and do all of the things that we love doing here in Colorado. And so that was the start of my journey and really getting this new chapter of my life rocking and rolling, much to my mother's demise. And so, I was sitting in cubicles and I got approached by a friend and a colleague, and he said, "Hey, let's get you out of this cubicle. Let's get you into installing countertops of all things." And so I said, "Okay, if it gets me out of this cubicle, let's go." And so just always made myself very clear, like I wanted to have a path for growth, for, the ability to step into sales and leadership and coaching and training. And so that's always been my mentality, and started in the construction industry and rolled through that for a while, and then transitioned, which we're going to talk about the transition and the reestablishment today, into the real estate world and leadership and personal development and growth and everything that goes along with that. And so here we are today, my friend. It's an exciting day to understand, sort of what's happened in the past and what the future holds. So let's hop right in, my friend.
I mean, there's only one person in the world, and that's God, that knows really what the plan is. The rest of us, I think, are kind of up to a mix of destiny, free will, and going where our emotions, or at least our head, it tends to be leading us from day to day. But yeah, you actually said something really interesting, and I love this part about your story, because we'll get into the longevity of it and how you have evolved as a person. And I think professional careers tend to be top of mind for a lot of people, regardless of their personal circumstance. But I was a person too that picked up, I'm from rural Minnesota, picked up, moved out here out to Boulder, didn't know anybody. It was a little bit of a rough transition. I went and got a chemical engineering degree, decided, well, I definitely didn't want to do that, didn't want to do what I was doing in the oil refineries anymore. And so I kind of took this newfound path to use every opportunity as a stepping stone, or at least those that I could as a stepping stone to get to where I am today. Sounds like you did something kind of similar. You packed up, you moved out here, you got into countertops. I know that led into real estate, but what was that? What's your genuine, I guess, curiosity or yearning for constant growth and constant learning? Was that a big integral part of your day-to-day life early on, or did you evolve into that over time?
Yeah, great question. And it's really at the root of who I am because, you were telling me a little bit about your kids earlier, and you already know their personalities and, the differences and the nuances of those kids, probably from the moment they were born. And it continues to develop. And so for me, I bought, sold with my father's money, trained horses. So I was a horse and pony guy. And that was really my introduction into entrepreneurship. How can I take the resources that I have, maximize them, put in the work, the elbow grease, roll up my sleeves, and train these horses, develop them, make them better, learn how I can do that before the internet was ever invented, and then have an asset that's worth more, and then leverage that to buy a better horse and train that horse and put the time in with that horse and then continuing to do that. And so that was really, as I've reflected back a lot over the years, that was how I got started in sort of entrepreneurship. And my father he had like a 9 to 5 that he worked at for 40 years or whatever the case was. And he also had other businesses that he ran outside. So, I always had that work ethic, and my mom worked hard and put in the time. And it was that combination of wanting to grow and improve and see the results of my hard work, and then be able to couple that with work ethic and really just see where this, all of that would take me and the results that could be had.
Yeah. No, that's great. I found the same thing. It really starts early on. You find things you're passionate about. You figure out how to take one, move it into the next, I guess, stepping stone, if you will. Did you find, and let's maybe fast forward a little bit into your real estate career, because obviously you got into real estate, you founded kind of your own company, brought on a team, there was a lot of leadership and things there. But did you ever find yourself in that process, or maybe you even are there today, where you just either felt stuck or you felt, hey, I'm just going through these motions. There's got to be something else here. And you're going to take that skill set from, equestrian activities in your early years to building a business to teaching other people and guiding them along their own professional career path.
Man, I've never really thought of it this way. However, yes, it is eerily similar as I just walked through that process of sort of building, training, developing, and then upgrading. That's sort of what I've done in real estate. Is at every new brokerage, we in the real estate game, we're always moving around and we tend to go with the shiny object syndrome to some extent. However, I felt like I would hit a ceiling consistently. And I'm like, okay, I've grown to where I need to now change my environment. And we talked a little bit, and I'd like to introduce to the audience here the concept of finding the right guide, right? Having new guides and seasons, and how powerful that can be. And so, my first guide was at the first brokerage, and he got me into the business and really helped me excel and build a great firm foundation. And then there was just a point where I said, okay, now I feel like I need more. I need a different guide along the way. So I sought out a new, area to go. Almost every coach that I've ever gotten, my wife's always been like, well, you're not, and so she's always been one of my biggest supporters. And so it's not to degrade them. She's always been a great supporter of me and an encourager of what I do and how I do it. And so as I've transitioned at each and every stage, I've seen a new opportunity to support the new season of my life. And I'm typically finding a guide that's going to help me. The best of the best all have coaches, probably multiple. And so, whether it's a health coach or a productivity coach or whatever the case is, and you said it best, the ultimate teacher in this life for those of us who have faith is God. And God puts these people in my life for a reason. And I do everything I can to build that relationship and take the most out of it. Now, we're going to talk about servant leadership here at some point, so I don't want to give the impression that I'm looking to take out of relationships. However, we do have, in order to be productive and advance our careers, we have to take something out of that relationship. So Hopefully that answers your question in terms of, how I've always felt like my time here is done and now it's time to move forward.
Yeah. Well, just real quick on that, let's define coach for people, or guide. So is that a professional coach? I know you said it, you need to find it in all aspects of life, but what does that represent to you? Like what's worked for Cory in your journey?
Yeah. So almost every instance it's been a professional of some sort. Or have they been a coach? Not necessarily. It's someone, and this is a really great question. This is a pro tip for the audience out there. It needs to be someone that has been down the road you want to go. And here, this is going to be crazy. They need to have experienced failure.
Yeah.
And hopefully
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hopefully.
Hopefully a lot of it. There's a lot of people out there, and especially in this world, Nathan, that, man, you see everything on Instagram, you see everything on social media, you see everything on TikTok, and it is rainbows and butterflies, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is going great. They got the cars and the watches and the suits and the things, whatever it is that you like to see someone of success. But the reality is the one constant in success is failure. And so you have to find that guide, that person that has been down the road you want to go and has experienced the failures and can help you those same failures.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a guide. And I would just encourage listeners out there to not be discouraged by people that have taken those hits and do have the record of failure, because it is the one constant in success.
Yeah, and I like that definition. I was hoping you were going to go there because there's two things that are really important, and you and I know this because we've been a part of several different business groups. We have decently sized networks. I don't want to say the largest, obviously, but we've been around a lot of people, and I see too many people fall into traps where there's some flashy guy on an internet with a couple of watches that's like, hey, pay me. I know all this stuff about marketing, and then they get frustrated because they didn't ask the next 15, 20, 30 follow-up questions, and he turned out to be a fake or only knew how to do it in this specific niche. In my own experience, I followed people that were successful in business, but actually knew nothing about the business I was in. They'd never taken a CPG product and grew it. They'd never taken a mobile application or a self-development product and sold it. And so I think we see these big flashy things and we say, well, it's sales, it applies to everything, or it's marketing, it applies to everything. And the reality is it doesn't. And it's hard to find the people that are experts in your area, but there's a reason for that. And as you said, there's no better teacher than failure. I just want to clarify one thing that you said, which is, I don't think people need to find a guide to help them avoid pitfalls, although I think that's a great thing if you can do that. But I actually think about guides as somebody who can help me recover faster from the pitfalls that I do take, because there is no way around the pitfalls. Whether I learned from you, Cory, and you fell into pothole A, but I fell into pothole B, right? You can help me out a lot faster if we're in this together. And I think that's really, really important for people to understand is you will fail. You cannot avoid it. But can you get out faster and keep moving faster after you do fall? And that's where I really find the value in guides.
Yeah, love it. Excellent distinction. Agree 100%. What is the ancient Chinese proverb? Fall down 10 times, get up 11? Something like
They're there for a reason, right? They've been around that long for a reason.
that. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about your transformation. I think you are in a position where you're looking to guide people. You are Cory the guide at this point, but what is this transformation that you're going through now? Why is it pulling so hard in your heartstrings? And how are you out there trying to find people that also need guides?
I'm looking for people that are looking for me, my friend. Here's the thing that can happen, particularly in the real estate industry, is you can get into a chase game. You can constantly chase the next. I talked about shiny object syndrome. And this is true for any entrepreneur. And there is certainly an amount of, hey, we got to follow up to maintain our relationships. We have to do these things. However, sometimes you can get caught up in that game of chase. And so I'm in a season now, and I've got to be honest with you, God has brought me to my knees. in certain ways. There's a verse in Jeremiah that talks about how man builds and God will destroy. And so there was a time at sort of the end of last year, beginning of this year, where I looked in the mirror, I wasn't happy with what I saw. I looked at my business, I wasn't happy with where I was at. And I felt like God was sending this massive message to me that I built something that was not pleasing to Him. And because of that, He was going to destroy it. And so I have been on this incredible transformation, first and foremost in my spiritual deep dive, first and foremost in taking time to dwell with God. As entrepreneurs, we're runners. I'm an opportunist in a lot of ways. I see opportunity and I run towards it. And I heard this message that said, stop. I'm going to set you in the corner. We're going to have a conversation. And when I say we're going to start, we're going to walk, and we're going to walk one step at a time. Yeah. And this time, you're going to build something that is pleasing to me and my kingdom. Mm-hmm. And you're going to start treating your body better. I gave you this vessel and you need to treat it like a temple. Your marriage is good, but you know I want it to be great. Mm-hmm. Your business is what it is. So I'm going to show you the power of what happens when you don't run based on what you think you need to go get, but rather you dwell and walk with me step by step. Mm-hmm. So I've gone from extended fasting to intermittent fasting to keto to carnivore. I've stayed consistent. I'm on my 5th year with my personal trainer. I went from 2 days a week to 3 days a week. Used to be in my neighborhood. Used to be a 3-minute commute. Now it's a 30-minute commute. I didn't let it stop me. I stayed consistent with those contributions. Yep. And I've set a specific time I go to bed. I set it. I'm up at 5 a.m. every day. The first book, I don't look at my phone. I don't do any of those things, and I'm with God first thing. So I am in a space that is unfamiliar for me, mm-hmm. Yet I have extreme confidence.
Yep.
And so that's the transformation that I'm in. And I said, I'm looking for people that are looking for me, because I know that when I build this, words matter, when I build this, I am actively building this. And it's based on the foundation of faith and walking in the principles of the Bible. This is the greatest leadership book ever written right here. And mm-hmm. So everything you need to learn is right in these pages. And so God is helping me to tap into my strength and the gifts that He's given me to take out into this world and change lives. So that's the transformation path I'm on right now.
I love that. Like, there's so many things that you said that I want to respond to everything, but I think it's such a cool journey, and I understand not everybody is religious, but oftentimes a lot of people will look outside of themselves. So even though you and I are talking about God, Christianity, the foundation and the principles are still there. And I'm so happy you said, the Bible is the greatest self-development book out there, because I tell my wife that all the time. It really, it amazes me when you listen to all the really powerful motivational speakers out there, the Tony Robbins, the Ed Milet's, the Dean Grazadillos, and how oftentimes what they share is so biblical, and people don't often attribute that. And I love it because it keeps me grounded, right? I look for that connection, but it does exist, the same thing, whether you assign yourself to a religious sect or not. It still is there as a foundation. It is about that servanthood, which we'll get into here in a second. But I want to talk about really quickly, and I want to pull on the thread of what you mentioned early on in that in that kind of chapter, which is, God tears down. And I don't think a lot of people realize how drastic that can be sometimes, because again, these are the conversations I love having with my wife. I built a business in my previous life that had a lot of temptation involved in it. And I kind of was getting sick of it along the way. I ended up, getting into a lot of socialite circles and going to these fancy galas and all this sort of stuff. And it was really flashy and exciting, but it completely removed me from the foundation of who I was as a person and who I felt God made me to be. And he put up an abrupt stop. I mean, it was like, this is a wall you are not going to go through. You have no choice. You are going to go left or you're going to go right, but you can no longer go forward. And after that experience, number one, it was very painful to go through. And I think this is the aspect of what oftentimes we associate with failure. But I know I've been disassociated from that perspective, meaning when there is an abrupt stop. I think I told you when we met last, like I like to think of myself almost as like a juggernaut. It's like whatever is in front of me, I'm going to run through that wall. We're going to keep going. We're going to persevere. I've got grit. I've got fortitude. I've got all those wonderful things. But when there's this immovable object in front of you, I don't think about it in the capacity of I've failed anymore. I think about it in what you just said. There's a lesson here. There is a deviation that has been put in my path by God to direct me on the path that he wants me to go down. And so now I say, okay, I'm listening. I understand this is going to be painful. I don't know what this path is, but I'm going to go left. I'm going to go right. I'm going to keep moving. But at the same time, I'm going to take some things out of my life. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to listen. I'm going to pay attention more and get back on track, because I know when that happens, God will do exactly what you just mentioned. He's going to start bringing things into my life, people, opportunities, experiences that will then push me down that right path again. So I think it's really, really awesome that you are experiencing that, but also that you're recognizing it, because I think a lot of people don't see it in that same light.
Yes, every obstacle is a new learning lesson. And it's an opportunity, honestly, to turn it all over. Because, and this is a pro tip to the audience here. If you are experiencing what Nathan just explained, do not, I repeat, do not take it as a failure, and don't let it get you down, right? We talk about leadership books, The Gap in the Game, great leadership book. It's okay to live in the gap for a few minutes, learn from it, but then it's time to get back into the game, right? And so it's like, what lesson does God have for me? And let me tell you, he has had some powerful lessons over the course of the past couple of years, especially for me. And so to be able to take that and turn it into something that's beautiful and that's productive and that will help you grow. And again, as I mentioned, now I'm on a mission, a kingdom mission, where it's like, yes, I've always been thankful to God. Yes, I've always said, every penny I've ever made, I've turned it all over. I'm like, this is God's money, and anybody I ever blessed with dollars or gifts or anything, I made it very clear that it wasn't my money. It wasn't a gift from me, that I was sharing it. It was a blessing from God. And so now I know I've got to take it a step further. And the message that I've received, and this is, audience, listen up here. If there are things that got you to this season, attributes in your life, habits that you have that are not going to get you to the next season of your life, whether you're serving, some other higher power or God, we have our faith rooted in Christianity. Either way, it is massively important that you realize that you have to stop certain things. You've got to hit the gas pedal on other things. And so it's okay to grieve that part of you, the hustle culture or the whatever it is that got you to that point that is not going to serve you in the next chapter, in the next season. And that's okay. And so recognize it and be willing to excuse it so that you can get to that next chapter and that next season of your life.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that specifically because I think that, again, it's so awesome. It's amazing how many parallels you and I have in our personal journey. But you saying this with such confidence and grace and calmness, right? And quite honestly, I wish I had a lot of those personal characteristics because I don't oftentimes have the calmness that I wish I had. But what I've really found on my own personal journey that I think has been amazing is when you do turn it over. And this is why I think the servanthood aspect is so key, and where really habitual growth is founded in. It's really to get people out of self and get you to pour into others. But you do that by improving yourself, evolving yourself. Cory's maintaining his consistency, and even though his commute went from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, it's incredible that he's still putting in the discipline and the accountability and the integrity, right? When you pour into other people, when you pour into your mind, when you pour into your spirituality, your community, or whatever it is, you're saying to God or the rest of the universe, hey, I'm turning these things over, right? I'm doing the best that I can. These are important to me for a reason. But at the same time, I know that there's more to me. And I've just found immense power of letting go when that happens. Has that happened to you? Can you talk about that in your own experience a little bit?
It's a newer thing, Nathan. I got to tell you, my friend, to turn it all over, to relinquish power. I am, as entrepreneurs, I think I speak to likely a lot of people that are out there listening right now. We like to control things.
A little
We
bit.
like to control, and we want to have a predictable outcome. That's why we build systems and processes and procedures, and we look to scale things as we go. And that's why we're constantly wanting something more. And so while I have said a lot of the right things, and I've always stayed with prayer, and I have always, had certain times where I would turn things over to God when it got overwhelming and everything. Now I find myself doing it on a constant basis, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, because I see the importance. We only have so much time here. And so I see the importance of that. And so now it is just a constant turning over and relinquishing that to say, God, you take the wheel. Because I've ran the bus in the ditch many a times. I'll just drive it right into the ditch. And it's not always been a bad thing. We can get out of the ditch. It's just that now I am so compelled and so connected with my Creator that it is just such an incredible, and Paul talks about it in the Bible, just having contentment at every step. He's sitting in prison and he's content. And so I've not been a person of content always, Nathan. Even in the most abundant times of my life, I have still operated from a place of scarcity. What's that mean?
Mm-hmm.
It means that I have the win. However, I'm already moving on to find the next one. And it's like, no, we need to take that time to recognize and dwell, and not only turn over. When we talk about, for us Christians, putting it at the foot of the cross, relinquishing control, letting God take the wheel, it has to do with bringing the good, the bad, and the ugly to the foot of the cross and just being open. God already knows it. So you can try to hide it from him, which is you're just looking in the mirror, you're hiding it from yourself. Or you can just put it out there, recognize it, heal from it, deal with it, and let God take that stress and that anxiety away. So it's a new season of consistent and constant, even turning that over and just operating and just saying, God, guide my thoughts, my words. I want you, if there's a random guy at Panera that I need to pray with, because he told me something, there's been a lot of that happening. And I'm like, okay, God, I'll go where you want me to go and I'll do what you want me to do. So yeah, it's a new, exciting, really confident season that fills me up. And it's really cool when God works, because someone says to me, thank you, that was powerful. And yet I feel like I got 10, the hair stands up on the back of your neck. I got 10 times the fulfillment to be in a position to be able to bless that person with whatever the Spirit kind of led me to do. And it's like, wow, how powerful is this? I want to live my life like this every day. So
That's amazing.
constantly turning that over is going to put me in the best position to have that happen more and more often.
That's amazing. That's such a cool story, but just it's an even more amazing way to live. And I've experienced that too, where it's I am actually getting goosebumps right now, but you pour into somebody else and that response happens to you. And to me, that's a signal that is, hey, this is what you should be doing. You should be helping people out. You should be pouring into others. Going back to what I was kind of sharing about letting things go in various seasons of life, whether you have to, you're forced into, you got to turn left or right, you can't go forward anymore. I don't want the audience to take that as you're just free from trials and tribulations. You've just given it up and it's like, okay, take care of me, God. I'm all good right now. You just tell me where to go and things will magically happen. You still have to put in the effort. You still have to make decisions. You're still going to run into stress. You're still going to be frustrated, but you're going to experience your highs, new opportunities. Your perspectives will change. And that's one of the things that I've really noticed about myself. When I have those types of experiences, when I get goosebumps for you and I can put myself in your shoes and just say, wow, I know that feeling of, hey, I poured into somebody else, but I feel like I'm the one that won out of the conversation because I was caring and giving and, trying to help you to the best of my abilities. Oftentimes it's the subconscious feedback loop that we don't recognize. It's the, hey, Cory, that feeling that you're getting just reinforced what you should be doing. So now that's going to say, Cory, control what you can control. Look for people that might need your help. Look for new opportunities and take them with grace and slow down and remove some of these distractions over here. They actually act as guiding points to us. And so oftentimes people think, well, I can't do that. I can't give up money, or I can't give up, working out. That's a terrible thing. I can't give up, eating like crap for a weekend or drinking alcohol every single day or whatever it is. But they don't realize when you start down that path, it is challenging, but you're getting these little signals, these little feedback loops that tell you you're moving in the right direction. You are doing the right thing. Keep at it. Be persistent, because it will pay off at some point in the future.
Yeah. Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that is truly at the root of, turning these things over to God and knowing that you're on the right path and that you don't get too far ahead of yourself, and that it's this constant checking in. It's a constant checking in. And so, yes, building those habits, stacking those wins, and realizing, just keeping that vision. And, for those out there listening, yeah, you want to always be working towards your vision. And it's okay to change your vision because it's your vision. And so it's great to constantly or consistently change that if you see fit. However, what you just explained, Nathan, is a powerful way to just keep yourself in check and make sure you have alignment at every step.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's so good. So I want to, I know we're getting really deep into this, and I absolutely love this conversation. So thank you for sharing, Cory. But can you, in your journey, so Cory the guide is now really coming in, you're discovering a lot of, servanthood, a lot of helping others, a lot of mental transformation. What are a couple of things that maybe you wish you would have learned a little bit earlier you can pass on to help other people stay out of pitfalls, or at least get past, pothole A onto pothole B, whatever that is in their own journey?
I can always only speak from my perspective. And so I have an intense perspective from the real estate world. I'm a serial entrepreneur as well. So I've started and shut down companies. That's what entrepreneurs do. Not every company is a success. So there's a couple things that I'd like to share here. First and foremost is the concept of work-life balance. It's garbage. It senses that you have to take from somewhere to give something different. Balance suggests a scale, and that you've got to take weights from one side to balance out the other side. And I just don't believe in that. So I like the concept of work-life harmony. I said this earlier, and I mean it. Words matter. The words that you say to yourself matter the most.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the work-life harmony, where the concept is that you're aligning visions of your personal life with those of your professional life. As entrepreneurs, we know that that is critical. If you don't mind, I'm going to plug the Habitual Growth app here, because that's part of what that app does so well. And when you look at people that have experienced that app, they talk about how they're able to keep their priorities their priority.
Mm-hmm.
Because it helps them to categorize and break things down. And so I would first and foremost really encourage people to make sure that you're constantly visiting that vision, and that you live and embody the principles of your personal life and align them with those in your professional life. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a W-2, a 9-to-5, or anything in between, just make sure that there is a constant and consistent rekindling and refocusing to that. And I've done that in many different ways, with business plans, large and small, and then, check-ins and things like that. And of course, you built an app for it, because these darn things are, in front of us a lot. So number one would be just stay in check and consistent. The second thing is you have to, I'm going to say that again because it's really important, because there's probably entrepreneurs listening to this podcast and they go, yeah, right, rest. You have to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the Iditarod race is?
Of course. I'm from Minnesota.
Okay. So for those of the listeners out there that haven't heard of this, it's a dog sled race. It's not just a dog sled race, it is the dog sled race. And it takes days and days, well over a week to do this course and this track. And for years, decades even, it was like somebody would beat the record by minutes. Someone would beat the record, by this many minutes or that many minutes. And along came a gentleman that said, hang on a second, you guys are doing this wrong. Everybody's running, and you're running your dogs and you're running your body and you're pushing it to the limits. And he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to rest my body and I'm going to rest my dogs. And I'm going to run faster and farther than anyone. Mm-hmm. And he beat the record by days.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So when you take the time to run, because we all know as entrepreneurs how to run, we know it all too well. Mm-hmm. You have to take the time to rest. Once again, a biblical principle. God created the earth and this universe in 6 days, and on the seventh, he rested. So this is something, through season after season of burnout after burnout, that I've just recently learned from a guide of this season, Austin Chevron, who introduced to me run rest cycles. And so in the real estate world, I know you're all about practical applications, Nathan, and the habitual growth community is all about how do we apply this? Well, we run Monday through Thursday, 3 weeks a month. And we rest on Friday in the fourth week, generally speaking. Yeah. There's a little bit of some tweaks that happen with holidays and stuff. However, you get the idea. Now,
Yeah.
does that mean on Fridays that we're resting? No, it does mean that we're recharging. It does mean that we're now working on our business instead of in our business. And that same thing on the last week. And guess what? We're going to run faster. We're going to run farther. And we're going to have that work-life harmony that we talk about and that we shoot for. And so that is the second thing. And then here's the last thing that I'd like to just leave with the audience. Plan on giving at least twice as much as you want to receive. Mm-hmm. Plan on giving at least twice as much as you want to receive. The great Zig Ziglar said, you can have everything you want in this life as soon as you help everybody else get what they want first. Now it's a great quote. Now, it is also a recipe for disaster, because if you don't, they tell us this when we get on the airplane. Well, hello, everybody aboard. In the case of, we lose cabin pressure, put your oxygen mask on first or we're all going to die. So you have to recharge. You have to leave some in the tank, Nathan, for yourself. Put your oxygen mask on first. So plan on making those deposits. It's what makes life worth living. However, make sure you don't put it all out there, my friend. So those are little words of wisdom from Cory the Guide.
I love that. Perfect guided wisdom words. And I think those are all very, very true. And what's interesting to me is, dependent upon your season, those will become much more applicable in your life. And the resting one is extremely important to me right now, and something like as I get a little bit older and I've got 3 younger kids and I juggle more and more, the rest is I literally cannot do what I used to do. And I complain to my wife all the time, but again, it's one of those things where if you're not resting, God's probably going to make that decision for you. So it's just good to keep that in mind. I love those words. And Cory, this has just been so fun. I mean, you're obviously very experienced. You have a wealth of knowledge. Thank you for sharing this with the audience today. I'm looking forward to pouring more into you as a friend, and somebody here local with me. So we're definitely going to do this again, and I'm excited for the future and what it holds for you.
Thanks, my friend. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to all the things, and I'm glad God brought us together and what the future holds, my friend.
It's going to be glorious. Well, thank you, sir. We will talk soon. I'll reach out separately after this. So thank you.
So long for now.
All right. See ya.